Hello, and once again, welcome to our next episode of FibreCraft Insights, Unveiling the Strength of GFRP. So as usual, a quick recap. We introduced this material, we talked about the properties, then we dwelled into the actual applications. So in the last episode, we covered the tunneling applications. We talked about TBM tunneling, we talked about NATM tunneling. Today, we will be mainly focusing on the applications of the GFRP rebar, mainly the flatwork applications. So let's get started and welcome Mr. Pierre Hofmann, our knowledge partner for this series. Welcome, Pierre.
Hello.
So Pierre, thank you for joining us once again. As we know, the reinforcement is a very crucial element for all infrastructure projects, and the way the steel prices are constantly fluctuating and which are practically controlled by a few stakeholders, limited stakeholders, if I could say. Do you see GFRP rebar as a good alternative for the steel rebars in our projects?
I would say there's no doubt here. You mentioned about how it's control over a few stakeholders. The beauty of GFRP is made mostly, 80% is made of glass, and glass is using silicate sand, which is the material mostly available on the surface of Earth. So it's a very common product. Also, if you look at over the last 2 decades, especially, GFRP material have been consistently improving their mechanical performance, even more strikingly increase their durability, so their long-term performance, and over time price is consistently going down. So while steel prices are fluctuating, nobody can tell how much we're going to pay for steel in 6 months, 1 year, but sometimes even less than that. There's no doubt that GFRP is increasing its performance to cost ratio. So for sure, the adoption can only go by increasing.
Okay. So generally, when we see any such new material, alternative materials or innovative techniques, construction techniques, when they are introduced, it's always gives a confidence to all designers when there is some supporting or backup codes for that. So if I talk specifically about Indian industry, there has been recently IS code launched, which talks specifically about GFRP rebar. So do you see this, the adoption, what we are talking about, there would be more encouragement for the people to use GFRP rebars now?
There's no doubt. I would say this is something that happened internationally. ACI released its first code 2 years ago. Europe released its second generation Eurocode at the end of last year. Same time as India released its IS code, same time as Australia released its first specification. So this is something happening in the whole world and in India in particular. Then when we look at the project, and again linked to what we were discussing just before, I think the important part is that on all those permanent infrastructure projects, the objective here is not to replace steel rebar by a GFRP that would be simply cheaper on that supply part. Basically, the only way to make those GFRP bars cheaper than black steel is to have bars that are made of a high glass content to reduce the quantity of resin and or to use the wrong type of resin. So you're referring to IS code, for example. The IS code is very clear on many criteria to make those bars permanent. One of the key one is the type of resin that is to be used, so not polyester, but vinyl ester or epoxy. There are many aspects also in terms of alkali resistance, moisture absorption, etc. And so eventually on the project, the saving don't come exclusively from the supply part, but actually come from many other advantages. Typically the design, we can use less reinforcement, but also less concrete. The productivity, installation is faster, the extended life of the structure, and even the sustainability. So when applying IS code, I really invite all of you to not limit yourself to the supply of the rebar and make sure it is compliant, because there's so many other aspects on which the saving can be generated.
Okay, so if I could say the crux of the message what you want to give to our audience is definitely it stands a chance to be as alternative to the steel. Of course, with due diligence, codal compliances, necessary testing, studying all the compositions, then only it could be used and going further. Well, yeah, please.
And so, just to summarize, if you really want to efficiently replace a black steel rebar. You just want to do it with a GFRP bar that will last. And so this is why it's so important to select the proper grade, the proper material, install it in the right way with the right design, and only it will really offer all its benefits.
Wonderful. Okay. So I think with this note, let's take a pause here, and we discussed about the GFRP rebar applications. Maybe very interesting to know in our next episode. We want to know more from you on the anchoring solutions. So we will discuss on the active anchors, also on the passive anchors, and how they could add value in such kind of projects. So meanwhile, for all our audience, thank you very much indeed for your responses. Please post your comments. Please let us know if you want to add any specific comments or any specific projects you want to know more about it, and we'll try to cover that in our subsequent episodes. Meanwhile, please take care of yourselves. Thank you.